How should I use the optional type hint? I'm trying to understand how to use the optional type hint. From pip 484, I know I can use optional for def test the column int equals none, either as def test the column union int, none, or def test the column optional int. But how about following examples? If optional type seems to mean the same thing as union type, none, why should I use optional at all?
Optional ... is a shorthand notation for union ... none, telling the type checker that either an object of the specific type is required, or none is required. ... stands for any valid type hint, including complex compound types or a union of more types. Whenever you have a keyword argument with default value none, you should use optional. Note, if you are targeting Python 3.10 or newer, PEP 604 introduced a better syntax, see below. So for your two examples, you have dict and list container types, but the default value for the keyword argument shows that none is permitted too, so use optional ... There is technically no difference between using optional on a union, or just adding none to the union. So optional union str, int, and union str, int, none, are exactly the same thing. Personally, I'd stick with always using optional when setting the type for a keyword argument that uses equals none to set a default value. This documents the reason why none is allowed better. Moreover, it makes it easier to move the union ... part into a separate type alias, or to later remove the optional ... part if an argument becomes mandatory. For example, say you have then documentation is improved by pulling out the union str, int, into a type alias. The refactor to move the union into an alias was made all the much easier because optional ... was used instead of union str, int, none. The none value is not a subwidget ID after all, it's not part of the value, none is meant to flag the absence of a value. Side note, unless your code only has to support Python 3.9 or newer, you want to avoid using the standard library container types in type hinting, as you can't say anything about what types they must contain. So instead of dict and list, use typing.dict and typing.list, respectively. And when only reading from a container type, you may just as well accept any immutable abstract container type. Lists and tuples are sequence objects, while dict is a mapping type. In Python 3.9 and up, the standard container types have all been updated to support using them in type hints, see PEP 585. But, while you now can use dict str, int, or list union int, str, you still may want to use the more expressive mapping and sequence annotations to indicate that a function won't be mutating the contents, they are treated as read-only, and that the functions would work with any object that works as a mapping or sequence, respectively. Python 3.10 introduces the union operator into type hinting, see PEP 604. Instead of union str, int, you can write str, int. In line with other type-hinted languages, the preferred, and more concise, way to denote an optional argument in Python 3.10 and up, is now type, none, for example str, none or list, none.
Directly from pythontyping module docs. Optional str is just a shorthand or alias for union str, none. It exists mostly as a convenience to help function signatures look a little cleaner. Update for Python 3.10+. You can now use the pipe operator as well.
While the accepted answer is the correct answer, one additional thing to note is that, in the context of quarks, both optional ... and union ... none are redundant and unnecessary. If you're immediately setting your quark to none, then both MIPY and IDES assume the obvious and automatically treat the arg as optional ... IDE. MIPY. For variables and method/function return values, optional ... is still necessary, however, as MIPY cannot know, in those cases, to automatically assume anything.
Note that since Python 3.10 you can simplify your code and type it like
If you want to see more, please